Good afternoon. This is the first meeting of the Cabinet Grants Panel in this municipal year, and I'm Tom Clark, the solicitor at Mid Sussex, and I'm asking for nominations for election of chairman of this panel. Councillor Hillier.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. I'd like to nominate Councillor Norman Webster, please.
And do I have a second to Councillor John Belsey?
Yes, I'd like to second that nomination, please.
I think it would be rather difficult to have any other nominations, so I therefore hand the meeting to Councillor Webster as the chair.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, and thank you, Mr. Clark, for opening the meeting. And the second item on the agenda is the appointment of a vice chairman, and I would like to nominate Councillor Stephen Hillier. Councillor Belsey.
I'd like to second that nomination, please. Chairman.
Thank you. In that case, Councillor Stephen Hillier is appointed Vice Chairman for the ensuing year. Thank you, gentlemen. Item 3 is to note substitutes in accordance with Council Procedure Rule 4, and there are none because we are all here. The next item is to receive apologies for absence. There are none because we're all here. The fifth item is to receive declarations of interest from members in respect of any matters on the agenda. Are there any?
Not for me.
Thank you. There are none. To confirm the minutes of the meeting of the panel held on the 11th of April 2022. And before we do that, I would just like to say how good it was to see so many people in Mid Sussex coming out to celebrate the Queen's very unique Platinum Jubilee. And I think the support that Mid Sussex District Council provided to communities in that respect seemed to be very, very well received. And officers are reporting the receipt of a number of photographs that show that people were very much enjoying themselves. So, moving on to the minutes. Gentlemen, are we happy with the minutes as they stand?
Agreed.
Those minutes are taken as agreed. Thank you. The next item is to consider any items that the chairman agrees to take as urgent business. I have none. And to receive representations from members of the council on applications. I have received none. Gentlemen, have you received any? Officers, have you received any? No, thank you very much. And as one of the officers is stuck in traffic, as were some of the members of the panel this afternoon, we'll move things around and we'll go straight to Regina Chowdhury to introduce agenda item 10, which is the Corporate Grant Scheme, Community and Economic Development Grants.
Thank you, Councillor Webster. Today we're going to present 8 community grant applications to the Community Grants Scheme, 4 of which have been put through for recommendation and 4 did not meet the criteria. As the panel will see, the 4 that were recommended have met our community-orientated projects, ranging from a project that's looking to upgrade a water fountain for the community, for the town centre, a a baby group that's looking to extend their service. So we had previously awarded the money, but now they're looking to extend the service. So we've granted them money there, and to reinstate a family fun afternoon. And there's an application for a Ukrainian refugee project, which we recommended to go to the Ukrainian Support Fund, but we put it through here so the members are aware of the application.
Good, thank you very much. Gentlemen, any questions? Councillor Hillier.
Thank you, Chairman. Happy with the recommendations, etc. This is kind of just my personal information. The first one, in relation to the Hassocks Baby Group, do they do their own fundraising or make any charges for people helping that group, just to understand the finances around it? Shall I ask both the questions and then come back, Chair? And the other one was in relation to the Ukrainian refugees. Again, I completely agree, but I've got no kind of understanding of what the size of the fund is and how much that leaves if this is given out. And then the other question I'll ask the economy team, which is on item 14. So,
Good, thank you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. With regards to the Hassocks Baby Group, I believe they do charge £1 a session, so every family that attends, they charge a session, and they do look for outside funding outside of this, because the application's for 450. We've only agreed £100, but they will be looking to fund the rest of it through other sources. And the community transport application for the Ukrainian refugee scheme is around providing transport so that refugees can get to places. And what they're proposing is that they're going to do 600 journeys and subsidise those journeys, and then they're also going to try and do some events around. But I think once we've agreed the principle that we're happy with the application, it will go to the Ukrainian Support Fund, and it will be competing against other projects at that forum.
Councillor Hillier.
thank you. I just wanted to come back. Yeah, so I probably didn't make myself clear in relation to there's a Ukrainian refugee support fund. It was just understanding how big that is and how much is left after the 5,000. And shall I do my question to the economy team now? Yeah, thank you.
We'll come to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
At the moment, I'm not actually informed about the Ukrainian Support Fund, but I can find out and then come back and let you know if that's right.
Okay. Councillor Hillier.
Thanks, yeah. It's just in relation to item 14, the support for the STEM projects. Again, I agree with the recommendation. I don't want to put you on the spot, but just whether you have any kind of feedback on how that's likely to go, where the funds can come from, because I think this is a superb project. It's just something that we should be supporting in my mind. Just wonder if you can give us any comfort with regards to that going forward. Thank you.
Nathan Spulstead.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I agree with what you're saying, Councillor Hillier, and we have been approached by the Haverty Town team regarding the funding of the STEM project, and I can confirm that we have accepted in principle that we support the fund because it directly delivers some of the objectives of our sustainable economy strategy. So we have allocated them funding from the economic development budget to directly deliver one of the objectives of our SES. And we have an in-principle agreement to do so, subject to the submission of the correct paperwork.
Good, thank you. Councillor Belsey, thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Chairman. I was going to talk about the East Grinstead fountain, but before I do, just on, I was just following up Councillor Hillier's question. I just too wasn't sure about the Ukrainian refugee support fund. Is that money that's been put aside by Mid-Sussex for use in Mid-Sussex, or is it part of a wider pot that we're bidding for?
I believe that's a separate fund that's been given through West Sussex to be spent specifically in Mid-Sussex. But I will go back and get more details about that and let you know.
from my side, I'm happy to support the recommendation. Sorry.
Yeah.
From my side, I'm happy to support the recommendation anyway, because I think we're just saying it's been put forward for consideration by the people that are spending that fund. So I'm quite happy to support that. I think more widely, I just struggle sometimes to understand the difference between an existing project and something that is a new project relaunching. For example, like the Maple Drive Community Group compared to, say, the Hassocks Youth Hangout, which is a sort of, an ongoing project, whereas it makes it sound like the Maple Drive Community Group is an ongoing project too. And I think sometimes it would be just quite helpful for residents and the people associated with various community groups just to have a bit of clarity as to why some organisations are successful in their bids and others don't. It's not always immediately obvious.
I think that's a really good point, and the reason why Sussex clubs were unsuccessful at this for this time was because it's been going on, and it's almost like a retrospective bid as well as just to carry on with an existing project. And the Maple Drive because it's happened 2 years ago. The reason why they're doing it is because of the cost of living, and almost to try and get the community back together. So they're initiating a project that did exist, but it's also a new project, and also it's because it's an area that we recognise of need. We think it'll be a good idea to initiate it, but we have made the point that this will be a one-off grant. We wouldn't be granting it in any future years.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Belty,
yes.
you alluded to the fact that you had a question about the East
Yes,
Grinstead Society.
I did. Thank you. And so for many members of the public from the north of the district will know that there's been a lot of posts on social media over the last 12 months about the potential for the renovation of the project for the Victoria Jubilee drinking water fountain. And I know Mid-Sussex officers have been involved to be as supportive as they can to help East Grinstead Society move forward with a project for cleaning and restoring the fountain. I think this is the first time in public where the project has come forward to the council in this year, and an opportunity for the council to back the fountain with is backing East Grinstead Society with some funding. Obviously, the project's over 10,000, and so the award requested 4,000. We're proposing 2,000. Is it possible just to understand whether you think East Grinstead Society have got the funding, a wider funding plan? If it's less than half of the funds that were requested, so I would be minded to consider giving more if that would have been helpful for East Grinstead Society. But I'm also mindful of the fact that I think it won't be the last time we see this coming forward to the panel, because I think the town council have offered to take on or considering taking on ongoing maintenance of the fountain, which I'm sure the many residents will be grateful for, but I suspect they will look to Mid-Sussex for some support in that as well in the first instance. So I could see it touches Mid-Sussex Council in quite a few ways, but I would be grateful for some thought on whether East Grinstead Society will be able to go ahead with their project on the proposed funding that we're offering. Thank you.
When we assessed the application, they did mention a lot of external funders that were interested, not necessarily that they had secured the funding, but there were quite a few bodies that were interested in the project and that they could get potential funding. And we also felt that this kind of project, especially with the environmental aspect to it and the community-based town centre and everything else, it can easily attract a lot of other funding, especially through something like Sussex Community Foundation. We just thought, it's a very attractive project, and we believe that it could get funding and supported through an organisation like Mid-Sussex Voluntary Action and even ourselves. I think we could potentially get funding through it. That's why we thought, we'd part fund it. But there's no reason why later on down the line we wouldn't want it to fail, that they couldn't come back and, do another.
So if I understand, Councillor Belsey has said that the project in total is £10,000 and they have applied for 4,000 and we are offering 2,000 in the hope that additional funding will come from elsewhere. However, if it doesn't for some reason, is the door still open for them to come back for additional funding, or is there a time limit in which they cannot come back for additional funding?
I think the criteria is, they could put in another application if it was for a different aspect of the project. There's no reason why you couldn't do that, but you couldn't ask for this, you couldn't put in the same application.
Right.
To add money,
So as the project unfolds, and if they find there are
other
additional
aspects.
costs for unanticipated items, they could reapply for further funding.
I think that would fall within the criteria.
Right, thank you. Councillor Belsey.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Chairman. Just, I know what Regina is saying, but I know we've also had comments before with other projects that, you can only make one application in a 12-month period for a similar type project. And I'm also conscious this is a Jubilee project, and ideally it must be completed this year, in the year of the Jubilee. So I understand, that we've got a lot of pressures on costs, but I do think it's a very good project, and I would be proposed that actually we do offer the 4,000 just to try to make the project over the line on this occasion. But I don't know if that would find favour with yourself.
Councillor Hillier, you coughing, is that a physiological issue or an attract attention issue?
Probably a lifestyle issue. Thank you, Chairman.
Right.
I hear what Councillor Belsey says, and I think it would be good to get this over the line, but I'm kind of minded to go with officers' recommendations because they've looked into it, and if they feel there's confident in getting the funding, then so they should. And the amount of grants that money we've got left in the pot, and we're in the early meeting of the year, it's a difficult one. I don't like to, because we all know about this project, and I think I've been shown the fountain by Councillors Webster and Belsey, and so I'm very keen to see it finished. But I think if officers feel that there's plenty of funding out there, then I'm happy to be guided by them. So I'm going to leave it with you as the casting vote, Mr. Chairman.
Regina, do you want to comment further?
Just to say that in the application itself, they have got potential funders that that conversations they haven't had. So there is the room there for them to make that 2,000. So they're speaking with the Lions, East Grinstead Business Association, the private sponsor. So there is a potential there. But I think if the panel feel that, because we do have money, although it's not that much at the moment. We would like to see it happening. It is a really nice project, especially for the Jubilee. I think it's quite apt for the Jubilee. So
I hear everything that you have said, and you've made the case for giving £2,000, but I think that there have been long and hard discussions about this locally in East Grinstead, and I would like very much for this council to be seen to be a significant sponsor of the project. So on that basis, I'm going to tip in favour of Councillor Belsey and suggest that we increase the grant allocation to the East Grinstead Society to £4,000 for the fountain. Do we need to vote on that, Mr. Clark?
Could I add something, John?
Yeah.
Just, thank you, Chairman. And I just also conscious of the fact that all those organisations that Regina mentioned, like the Lions, East Grinstead Business Association, I'm also conscious that they've also got a lot of requests for their funding as well, and there are a lot of projects that they are being asked to fund. They're all charities or sort of not-for-profit organisations themselves, and I think it will help give them a bit of wriggle room as well if we're able to provide that additional support. So thank you very much, Chair.
I agree. Mr. Clark.
Yes, I think it might be worthwhile having a vote, Chairman.
Okay, gentlemen, if we could vote now, please. Mr. Clark, would you like to read?
Yes, that's all in favour, Chairman.
Thank you. Right. And if we could go on to agenda item 11, the Microbusiness Grant Scheme, please. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Chairman. So the purpose of this report, as stated, is just to present 7 applications for our microbusiness grant scheme to the panel. The scheme itself doesn't differ from previous iterations, still offering grants of £2,000, 50% match funded by the business for businesses with 10 or fewer employees. The applicants themselves are required to fit one of the criteria noted within paragraph 11. And while not referenced in the report, it's worth noting that this scheme has been marketed across the district via various platforms such as social media, direct communication with business, and through the 3 main business associations, which is something we're going to look to do throughout the span of this funding, with the expectation to bring further applications to subsequent meetings of this panel. Lastly, paragraph 9 notes that returning applicants will be highlighted to the panel. Of the 7 applications being presented here, all of which are new applicants for funding. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Gentlemen, any questions? I must say personally that as an East Grinstead councillor and a councillor from the north of the district, I remain disappointed that once again there are no applications from anywhere in the north of the district except for Copthorne. Squires Planning Limited in Copthorne. The balance of the applications are from Haywards Heath and further south. And I appreciate fully that the same publicity has been staged right across the district. And I just wonder what the reason is for there not being any applications from East Grinstead and some of the other areas in the north. I'm not asking for an answer. I'm just, okay, thank you.
So I can't speak on why, unfortunately, but I can say that since the submission of this paper, we've had a meeting with the East Grinstead Business Association directly, and they are going to sort of continue to support and push it out throughout sort of the northern area of the district. So with their support, hopefully, next time around we can bring some good news.
All right, good. Thank you for that proactive approach. Councillor Hillier.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, just wanted to get a little bit more detail on 2 or 3 of them, if I may, please. The first one is in relation to Squires Planning. Town planners, whether this is a one-person company, and if that is the case, do we feel that they have an intention to employ others? I think it's a recurring theme of mine. I'm very keen to see these grants going to companies to help take on additional employees. That's the first question. The second one is the next one down. Once Upon a Boutique only scores 3 out of 6, but it's come forward anyway, which again is potentially fine. But I'd just like a bit of a commentary on that, if I may. And then the last one, the Sussex Social. The hire of a virtual assistant, just trying to understand why that would be. Does he or she not feel they can deal with this themselves? And again, do you feel that this is potentially a step onto future recruitment? Thank you, Chairman.
Yep, so just to take those in order, so with regards to Squire's planning, I can confirm that there are 2 full-time employees currently within the business, and part of the grant itself is to purchase equipment for the setting up of a workstation for a 3rd member of staff. So it's clear that the business is trying to grow themselves, and the grant should enable them to do that. In regards to your second question, Once Upon a Boutique is, of course, the lowest scoring grant on the applications that we're presenting today. However, the scheme stipulates that they only need to meet one of the criteria, which they do well. They do meet a second criteria, albeit minor to the first, so that does skew the score somewhat. However, it's more of an indication of, I suppose, their meeting of those criteria rather than whether we believe it should be funded. Of course, our recommendation is that it is, and we feel that the project is worthy of the grant funding support. And then your third question, in regards to the virtual assistant, the business owner feels that through the sort of temporary hire of this virtual assistant, they can take away from the more admin duties and focus on sort of growing the business and their sort of direct involvement in that side of things. I can't comment, unfortunately, on whether that will become a permanent position. But again, similar to the Squire's planning, it's clear that the business is trying to grow themselves, and we'd support them through any means necessary.
Thank you very much. I must say, I think this is the first time that we've had an application for a virtual assistant come to this committee. So I suppose it's quite apt that the name of the company is the Sussex Social Limited. The two kind of go together. If there are no more questions, can we vote on these applications en bloc, as we did with the last agenda item? And Mr. Clerk, for purposes of procedure, could you read out the result, please?
Yes, Chairman, that's 100% in favour of the grants.
Thank you. And could we go on to agenda item 12 now, please, just to finish off the economic development part of the agenda.
Thank you, Chairman. So the purpose of this report is to present a single application for the Independent Retailers Grant Scheme. This scheme slightly differs from the Microbusiness Grant.
I think you need to press your button.
Oh, no, there we go. All good?
Yeah.
Yeah, as mentioning, these grants offer funding of £4,000 to independent retailers, 25% match funded by the business, alongside a training programme which was delivered earlier in the year. The previous applications for this scheme were presented to the panel in February. However, following closure of the scheme, it was noted that an additional application was submitted to the economic development team prior to the web link being removed from the websites. Given that there's an unallocated spend within the fund of roughly £3,950, officers are recommending approval of this additional application. The application itself being £4,000, therefore officers will seek to top up the unspent grant funding either through unspent allocation or through the economic development budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Gentlemen, any questions, or can we go straight to the vote? No questions. And if we could vote on that. Thank you.
Yes, that's 100% in favour again.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk, and thank you, the Economic Development team. And you may leave if you wish to, or you may prefer to enjoy the cool air conditioning in the chamber. And we'll go back to item 9, and welcome. you are not the only one who has suffered travel difficulties, so it's good to have you here.
Okay, thank you. There's only one facility grant application this funding round from First Copthorne Scouts. They've applied for £10,791, which is the full amount of the project that they're intending to undertake, which is to improve some unused space at the back of the building. So that needs to be cleared and fenced and landscaped to make it safe to use. For some storage, and there's a caving activity that the children use that they can't access at the moment. So there were a number of community organisations in Copthorne that were encouraged to apply for a facility grant because there have been 3 large developments, so there's funding available for these kind of improvements. And this project will benefit the young people who use the Scouts. So there's 220 users at the moment of that building, plus also the guides who are next door. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Councillor Belsey.
Thank you, Chairman. And thank you for that, Elaine. Were there any other projects put forward then for the Section 106? The only reason I say it is I don't know the First Copthorne group, but obviously them doing a great job locally. I recognise that, benefiting 220 local young people. I just suppose the only slight sort of reservation I have is that they made a surplus in 2021 of 17,000. They've got over £90,000 of cash in the bank, and so I know that Section 106 needs to be spent, but it would also be quite interesting to know whether other projects came forward, and also I hope with that money that they have that there will be some good plans themselves for use for their building, because it's hard enough when organisations need the money, but I'd be hard pressed to say that the Scouts themselves, because they're obviously very well run and a popular thing, actually need the Section 106 money, but I understand it has to be spent.
To respond to that, I did query that with them because I realise that they obviously do have a fair amount of cash in the bank, and they told me that they are holding reserves at the moment because they're going to need to make some repairs to their roof, and they also intend to put solar panels on when they do the roof. So they said that they're retaining some reserves for that. They also need to keep some money aside for a replacement minibus, and then the other money is for tent replacement, which is on a 6-year cycle, and a hardship fund for children that can't pay the subs or camps. So, yeah, I did query that with them because I wasn't sure whether or not that money was allocated.
That's really helpful additional information, I think, and I think it's good to know that there are further plans afoot.
Yeah, and the other groups have been in contact with me, and I think more applications will come forward, but they're just developing their proposals and getting quotes and so on.
So is there additional Section 106 money available for the area beyond that?
This is just about, this is a small amount of the money that we're currently holding.
Thank you.
There's been quite a significant amount of development in that area. So there is Section 106 funding available. And I think that certainly if there are any councillor colleagues listening in, it's a good message for them to make us aware of any potential projects that they may have within their areas. And of course, the communities team are in good contact with the communities anyway, by definition of your job titles. So I think that this has been very carefully considered. I'm particularly pleased to hear that they are going to be spending money on improving the facilities and putting in equipment such as solar panels, etc., to future-proof the building to a good extent. So I'm really pleased to hear that. Councillor Hillier.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, yourself and Councillor Belsey have addressed one of my queries, which was about the funding at Shepton Scouts Reserves. That's all good. And I'm happy to support this. I think this organisation generally recognises the value of the Scouts in terms of what they offer the youth in the area, so very keen to support it. The question I had, and it's not an issue here because, as Councillor Webster has pointed out, or found out, there's quite a lot of Section 106 available. But my question would have been, are the parish council comfortable with this? Because I'm aware that we as organisations spend Section 106 all around the district. And certainly when I was at a lower tier authority, one felt a little under-consulted in terms of where your precious 106 went. So I just wondered if you had any comment on that, but I'm very happy to support the application. Thank you.
Yes, the parish council are consulted, and they're advised when we receive the Section 106 money. They know what it's held for, and they've been doing local consultation with the groups to try and get them to work together to come up with projects to use the funding. So they are aware and they are supportive.
Good, thank you very much. I think in that case then it's just to go to the vote.
Yes, Chairman, that's 100% in favour again.
Thank you very much. And if I am reading the agenda correctly, that brings us to the end of the meeting. But what I would like to do before we do that is just allude to the word, we'll talk about the word community, because there is no doubt in my mind that in coming months we are going to see community organisations under financial stress as residents feel greater financial stress as well. And I have already had conversations with a food bank in East Grinstead about the challenges that are facing people. And I also attended a Mid-Sussex Voluntary Action Health Forum last week, where a number of the charitable organisations that were present made it very clear as to what the pressures were that their communities were facing. And I just want us all to be aware of the fact that as a council we are very aware of those stresses going forward, and we are having conversations with a number of charitable organisations, food banks, etc., who are out there to support residents who are experiencing financial difficulty. And on that sober note, I will close the meeting at 16:43. Thank you.